Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we are immersing ourselves in one of the most compelling, messy, and I think ultimately tragic stories of independent animated creation.
Absolutely.
We're talking about the rise, the kind of explosive success, and then the total collapse of the series known as the Whiz Kids.
It's a story that's a perfect storm of art, therapy, high school drama.
And real-world legal fallout. It really has everything.
It is truly unique. We are going to spend our time today unpacking some extensive excerpts from the Whiz Kids documentary, which, it traces the entire life cycle of this project.
And our mission here really is to understand how this show, which spanned 2 full series, managed to so successfully integrate these high fantasy archetypes.
Right, your wizards, your paladins, your archers.
There's the absolutely grounded, intensely personal reality of high school drama and some really complex adult issues.
It's that blend that makes it so potent.
What's so arresting about the core concept is this constant friction. I mean, you have characters who are literally born with magical powers. And they're existing alongside teenagers who are dealing with, trigonometry homework and relationship drama, all set against this recognizable backdrop of a real place, Swansea High School.
And that potent, really unfiltered mix is exactly why the show resonated so deeply with its initial audience.
Well, precisely why it became unsustainable in the end.
You really can't separate the art from the artist here. This wasn't some corporate project.
No.
It was an intimate, almost autobiographical portrait that was just masked as a fantasy adventure. And I think to grasp the significance of the controversy that ended it, we really must first understand the intense personal foundation that was laid by the creator, Jordan Miller.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's start right at the genesis, because the sources make it undeniably clear that The Whiz Kids was not launched as, a commercial venture.
Not at all.
It was born out of a profound personal necessity. Jordan Miller, who has autism, was struggling, and I mean significantly struggling at the time of creation.
Yeah, he needed a serious creative outlet. A mechanism, really, to keep his mind focused and on the right track during what sounds like a very difficult period.
And this animation project became his therapeutic world. It was his way of processing and managing real-life stress and, these huge emotional events.
That concept of artist therapy is really the engine that drives the entire narrative of this show.
It has to be.
And because it was an outlet, it became radically honest. The structure, the characters, the conflicts, the entire world of the Whiz Kids was based directly on the events, relationships, and people who were actively present in Jordan's life when he was writing it.
It's essentially a fantasy memoir.
That's a perfect way to put it.
And Jordan didn't shy away from self-insertion at all. His character in the show was Butters, who was named after a character he admired from South Park.
Right, and the sources paint the initial plot hook as deeply emotional. It starts with Butters trying desperately to reunite with his core group of friends.
Specifically Cody, Jason, and AJ, the founding members of this fantasy faction.
Exactly. So the foundational emotional need that launched the entire series was this desire for reunion, for stability, and for connection.
It's the ultimate quest, isn't it? Gathering your party. Only the stakes aren't about saving a kingdom, they're about saving a friendship. Or maybe a relationship.
We also see this grounding in reality through the setting itself. Swansea High School, where the Whiz Kids attended, is an actual institution.
It's where Jordan himself was a student.
Right. And when you see the visual that's included in the documentary, it's just a snapshot of the school, it confirms how hard Jordan worked to anchor this fantasy firmly in his own recognizable reality.
He wasn't just inspired by his life, he was transcribing it. And the casting pool was literally Jordan's immediate environment.
Yeah.
Laura, who is a key supporting character, was based on an old friend he worked with at vocational rehabilitation.
And for anyone who isn't familiar, vocational rehabilitation is a place specifically for helping people with disabilities gain job skills and employment.
So his daily work life was translating directly into his fictional world. He was casting the people who supported him in roles that really reflect that support.
Now let's talk about the character who provided the show's emotional center. Cody He, the king and leader of the Whiz Kids.
Right.
Cody was based directly on Jordan's ex-boyfriend, Colin Montgomery.
Wow.
And when the series began, Jordan missed Colin intensely. So creating Cody's storyline was a way for him to sort of retell their story.
Maybe seeking a happier narrative resolution than what the real world provided.
I think that's exactly it. And this explains the initial, just intense emotional investment in Cody's success and happiness in the show.
That is a massive emotional investment. I mean, using a global fantasy epic to work through the lingering grief of a breakup,
It is.
it makes the series incredibly high stakes, even if the audience at the time didn't know the exact parallel.
It certainly does. But here is where the narrative, both of the show and of Jordan's own feelings, it takes a fascinating human and honestly devastating turn. While the show was founded on this place of longing, the documentary provides a crucial update on Jordan's current feelings.
Man.
He now states he wishes he had never met Colin, viewing him as, that's a direct quote, such an asshole.
Wow, that changes everything.
It does. This transition from longing and love to active resentment, it had seismic implications for the show's later seasons.
So the narrative evolved dynamically, just mirroring Jordan's shifting emotional state.
Exactly. It introduced this profound tension right into the character that was based on his ex.
So the character of Cody, who was initially a symbol of love and power, must have been completely transformed by this shift in the creator's perspective.
Absolutely.
That's powerful evidence of the show being a live emotional transcript. Okay, now that we understand those deeply personal stakes, let's meet the Whiz Kids faction itself, because their contrasting roles, I think, really define the show's unique tone.
Indeed. This core faction is where the show executed its primary stylistic conceit-blending classic tabletop RPG roles with these highly specific contemporary high school personalities.
So we start with Cody He, the king and leader. We know he's based on Colin. He's described as having autism, and his power source is inherent. He was born with magical powers, a powerful wizard right from the start.
And the sources really emphasize his importance by showing two different avatar images for him.
Oh, right. One of them depicts him in a traditional pointed gray wizard hat.
And the other shows him in this majestic turquoise jeweled turban.
That visual contrast immediately signals his dual role. He's both a student of the arcane and a natural-born ruler.
And what's fascinating about Cody being the king and the most powerful wizard is the subtext it provides,
Yeah.
Does his inherent magical ability, alongside his autism, suggest a statement about misunderstood strength?
Or maybe the unique power found in different neurological perspectives.
Possibly. He is the nucleus around which the entire group orbits, which makes Butter's later actions against him even more significant.
Then you have AJ, the paladin. He embodies the healing, the supportive side of the group, which is a classic paladin role.
But the show immediately undercuts this medieval archetype with his personality.
Yeah, he's the youngest member, he's funny, and he is absolutely obsessed with watching Arthur and other PBS kids shows.
And that's the tonal tightrope walk right there. You have a holy warrior who spends his downtime watching Arthur.
It's brilliant, this low cultural clash. It grounds the paladin, a figure usually associated with stoicism and chivalry.
In the specific reality of a contemporary teenager's interests.
Yeah.
It keeps the show light, despite all the heavy emotional lifting going on elsewhere.
Moving on to the archer, Clara. She injects some serious and I think necessary friction into the group dynamics.
She really does. The documentary uses strikingly blunt language to describe her.
It calls her a bossy bitch who is controlling and someone who gets triggered very easily.
I mean, it's an unfiltered characterization, which just reflects the rawness of the source material.
Her avatar even highlights that clash again. She's got blonde hair, a feathered headband, looking like a mythical archer.
But she's holding a smartphone.
Right, equipped with 21st century angst and communication tools.
Clara is essential because she breaks that heroic mold. She's not just a sidekick. She's an internal challenge for the group.
And her demanding nature feeds directly into the motivation of Julian, the group's thief.
The thief, right? Julian, always armed with a dagger, specializes in stealing vital items from their enemies.
And his entire motivation is pure teenage courtship. It's so simple. He's explicitly trying to be the cool kid and impress Clara.
His crush.
His crush. He's risking his neck stealing magical artifacts just to get her attention.
Which pays off. A great plot point in the series is that Julian and Clara actually start dating later on.
So it proves that the high school romance element was given just as much weight as the world-saving quests.
Oh, absolutely. The drama was about navigating their controlling dynamic as much as it was about defeating the next monster.
So the final two core members, both named Hunter, represent this technological and traditional divide of the faction.
A really interesting split.
Hunter Poole is the hacker boy, the tech wizard who can hack into any electronics.
He's the antithesis of the magical roles, right?
Yeah.
He brings modern-day cyber warfare skills to their medieval quests.
He's described as quiet, stays to himself, always wearing a hood and headphones. It's a classic introverted tech genius archetype.
And his avatar is all black gear with these huge red headphones.
And then balancing that ultra-modern skill set is Hunter Dowd, who the source identifies as the Indian member.
And this is interpreted in the show as making him very wise and someone who follows traditional methods.
So the Whiz Kids are not just relying on spells and swords. They are equipped with both ancient wisdom and cutting-edge hacking skills.
It's a beautifully heterogeneous party setup, designed for any kind of threat, whether it's magical or digital.
That attention to detail, linking these specific personal traits and cultural touchstones to powerful fantasy roles, really sets the show apart. But the world didn't stop with the high school kids.
Not even close.
It's clear Jordan Miller built an incredibly rich ecosystem, complete with an equally complex and sometimes bizarre world of adult relationships.
Absolutely. The adult world, which is arguably what ultimately led to the show's demise, anchored Cody's personal stability. And the central figures here are Laura and Postman James.
Laura, who is Cody's stepmom, she's the sister of his biological mother, Mindy Sexton, is the emotional caretaker.
Right. She is extremely concerned about Cody's safety and well-being, but her own narrative arc was profoundly adult and complex.
Very. We learn she's infertile, which is a very serious, emotionally taxing issue to tackle.
And in season 4 of the second series, this becomes a major plotline. She attempts to have a baby and eventually succeeds with the help of a surrogate.
This is a critical point. We are talking about an animated show that, by season 4, is tackling surrogacy and infertility with real depth.
That choice immediately pushes the series far outside the conventional high school fantasy genre.
It speaks to the creator's willingness to process his own or his family's serious adult experiences right there through the medium of the show.
And then there's her husband, Postman James. He provides a fascinating contrast.
He's described as a stressed, middle-aged man.
Largely due to his dual roles. He's not just Laura's husband. He's responsible for the caretaking of multiple disabled people, known collectively as the Dumb People Crew.
The DPC, and he considers them his own kids.
Right, and despite this high stress level, he's characterized as ultimately a happy man, especially since meeting Laura.
So James is like the weary hero of domesticity. His patience is constantly being tested, especially by the DPC.
But the show also didn't hesitate to dive into the truly messy relationship history of these adults. Take Liam.
Laura's ex-boyfriend, who is constantly trying to win her back, much to her annoyance.
And Liam's characterization is astonishingly detailed for this context. We need to pause on this.
We do. The source specifies that Liam is a trans woman who was born female but transitioned to male and recently underwent gender-affirming surgery, officially making him a man.
And Laura just finds his constant attempts to reconnect annoying.
That level of detail shows the show was actively integrating contemporary, complex identity issues into its adult drama.
It wasn't glossing over difficult realities or transitions at all. It just presented this detailed life history as a source of ongoing annoyance for Laura.
Treating gender identity with the same complexity as any other adult relationship hurdle.
It's radical honesty in action.
And the honesty extends into the realm of the bizarre with the character Patrick.
Oh, Patrick.
His personality is just defined by strangeness. In newer episodes, he is constantly making out with a doll.
A doll that resembles his deceased girlfriend, Fiona.
He's so public about it that he constantly annoys the other characters.
Patrick's storyline, while strange, serves as another example of Jordan Miller using the show to explore difficult aspects of grief and mental health.
Even if those explorations result in some unconventional, boundary-pushing narrative choices.
This is not typical animation. It's unfiltered, raw expression.
We also have Meadow and David rounding out Cody's supporting cast. Meadow is Cody's older sister, referred to simply as the boss.
And she has a very specific, quirky obsession. The musician Jelly Roll.
Yeah, this crush is introduced in a notable episode, Season 3, Episode 15, The Gladstone Invasion.
That's the one where she does an impression of him, right? And solidifies him as her crush.
That's the one. And then David is Laura's fiercely loyal wingman.
He's described as hardworking, funny, and joyful. He's been Laura's steadfast supporter for years.
His backstory is also dramatic. He previously adopted 8 kids, but had to return them due to complications with the original caregiver.
Which suggests a deep capacity for care, matched by intense loyalty. He's the one described as willing to kick someone's butt for Laura or Cody.
Finally, let's revisit the Dumb People Crew, or DPC, and we have to address the controversial nature of the name itself, which the sources use directly.
Right. It's important to note that this terminology is reflective of the specific unfiltered language used within Jordan Miller's original material.
This group is central to James's stress, and their collective identity is defined by their shared, intense love of watching Blue's Clues.
Which, you can understand, drives James crazy sometimes.
And the DPC has its own leader, King Smoothcheeks, who is characterized as silly, goofy, and pretty stupid.
But even he gets a major romantic arc that pushes the boundaries of the entire narrative universe.
This is where the narrative just leaps into glorious absurdity.
It really does.
In Season 3 of the second series, Smoothcheeks gets a love interest, Joe from Blue's Clues, and they start dating.
Right. Joe from the actual Blue's Clues franchise. This demonstrates how fluid Jordan's creative universe was.
It wasn't constrained by copyright or reality.
No. If he was interested in something, it became a character, regardless of how absurd the integration was.
King Smoothcheeks, the silly leader of a group of adults obsessed with a children's show, dating the show's actual host.
It's the perfect culmination of the show's unique ability to blend high fantasy, personal therapy, and pop culture collage.
So given the density and the sheer volume of these layered plot lines and relationships, the show was successful enough to span 2 whole series.
A huge success.
That success, however, carried it into the dangerous territory of public scrutiny. Let's delve now into the key achievements, the major plot pivots, and the circumstances that led to its sudden and controversial cancellation.
The series structure was actually cleverly designed to allow for character aging and narrative evolution. Series 1 was called The Whiz Kids Series 1. The Return of Friends.
And that focused on that initial emotionally driven quest to reunite the core faction.
Which reflected Jordan's early longing for connection.
Yeah. Then Series 2, the Whiz Kids Series 2. The senior year shifted the thematic core. The focus moved heavily toward them completing their schooling, dealing with typical high school drama.
But they kept the fantasy threat in the background. It allowed the show to mature alongside the audience and, well, its creator.
The senior year run featured some major narrative shifts, none more crucial than the betrayal involving Butters.
Jordan's self-insert, yeah.
Butters spent several seasons relentlessly trying to get Cody to marry him. Then, around Season 6, this massive psychological revelation dropped.
Butters didn't actually love Cody. He only wanted him for his inherent magical powers.
That is a staggering turn, and it needs to be analyzed for its emotional depth. I mean, this isn't just a plot twist.
No, it's Jordan Miller retroactively applying cynicism and manipulation to a character he initially created out of longing.
The character that was meant to embody his desire for reunion becomes a power-hungry manipulator.
It directly reflects that real-world shift we discussed, from missing Colin Cody to viewing him as such an asshole.
The narrative essentially weaponized the creator's changing perspective.
It completely reframes the entire first series. And while this betrayal was playing out, the adult domestic drama reached its own climax in Season 7.
Right, with the birth of Laura's biological children via surrogate. Triplet boys named Weston, Caden, and Brayden.
And again, the boundaries between reality and fiction just dissolved here. The documentary confirms these 3 boys are based on real children. Jordan knows who share those exact names.
Though only 2 are real-life triplets, with Weston being the oldest.
Right. And initially, they were just sweet, innocent babies without major roles, but by Season 8, their existence propelled the plot. The adults had to constantly protect the infants from the central villain, King Chaos.
So before the show veered into all this controversy, it did achieve some significant cultural high points, especially during its Christmas episodes,
which the audience consistently named as their favorites.
The Christmas wedding stood out. This was the episode where Laura and James finally get married.
It was praised for its production value. A beautiful set with snow effects and wedding music.
And the specifics are wonderful. The priest was Leonard, the Walmart guy. Even the villains showed up, trying to disrupt the ceremony.
But they were hilariously scared off by Steve Hale performing his podiatrist act.
It's just so specific and weird. The episode concluded warmly with them opening presents the next morning.
And the second favorite, the Christmas parade, captured the show's spirit of community. It took place at Swansea High School, announced by Mrs. Cafe Santony.
It was described as awesome, filled with music, and featuring integrated cameos from characters like Joe, Blue, and Sprinkles.
Solidifying the idea that this world was just a giant, interconnected playground of Jordan's interests.
And that willingness to incorporate popular fictional characters rendered as humans was a defining characteristic of the show.
They introduced the Fuller House people in the season 2 premiere.
And they were generally likable, including funny Kimmy and Fernando. But Jackson was specifically rendered as his old, clumsy, dumb self.
So the show didn't necessarily treat its cameos with reverence.
Not at all. And then you had the Angry Squad people.
The humanized versions of the Angry Birds franchise. Red, Chuck, Bomb, the Blues, and the others. This group provided substantial comic relief and running gags that developed over time.
The running gag involving Bomb is hilarious in its specificity. He developed a skill for doing a really good Neil Armstrong impression.
Which became a highlight of seasons 6 through 8.
And the Blues Jay, Jake, and Jim, the younger members of the squad, they grew up slightly, reaching 12 years old.
But their primary activity remained pulling pranks and playing PS5.
Which is crucial. It shows how consistently the show maintained its focus on contemporary kid activities, no matter how fantastical the overall context.
We also saw the gradual expansion of the supporting cast, like First Sergeant and Robert, who started singing the series' intro song, Dong Tales, in season 7 and 8.
And that shift gave them major roles that they hadn't had previously, illustrating how Jordan was constantly cycling characters into the spotlight.
But the smooth evolution of the narrative marrying high school drama to fantasy quests, it all came to a screeching halt in season 7.
The documentary refers to this period as the wild card season.
Yeah. Episode 1, the class president episode, was fine. A decent entry into the senior year arc.
But episode 2, King Smooth Cheek's house party, became instantly notorious and ultimately fatal to the series.
The documentary describes it bluntly as an X-rated video.
Where the dumb people crew through a nasty, uninhibited party at Laura's house.
This was not a subtle deviation. It was a total tonal rupture. A complete break.
The creative decision to move from lighthearted romance and fantasy quests to a highly sexualized, explicit depiction of disabled adults partying, it represents a complete loss of boundary control.
And the sources confirmed this wasn't an isolated mistake. The remaining season 7 episodes began incorporating significantly more sexual jokes.
Season 8 tried to pull back a bit. It only ran 12 episodes and was described as just okay. But the damage had been done.
The show's identity was now defined by this explicit content.
And the consequence arrived swiftly. Season 8 was meant to lead into a grand finale, but it never aired.
The show was canceled. Canceled because Jordan Miller faced a lawsuit.
And the person attempting to sue him was a boy named Chandler Richburg.
This is the critical juncture where art and life violently collide.
The reason for the lawsuit wasn't just the existence of the controversial episode, but the specific real-world exposure of it.
Right. Jordan Miller showed Chandler Richburg the highly controversial King Smooth Cheeks house party video.
And that simple act of sharing that highly sexualized episode outside of its intended circle, it led to immediate and severe legal repercussions.
The entire series, all 2 successful runs of it, was canceled instantly due to this exposure. It demonstrates how fragile the entire enterprise was when confronted by external legal constraints.
It's an absolute tragedy for the creator because this show started as this therapeutic healing project, and it ended in a legal challenge that completely destroyed his final vision. Jordan had been planning a massive graduation episode to cap off the senior year.
It was intended to be a movie, held outside with a homemade stage and music.
All that preparation was wasted. The story of the Whiz Kids was not allowed a formal conclusion. It was just terminated by legal controversy.
What stands out most profoundly, looking at the full arc of the Whiz Kids, is the volatility inherent in creation that lacks boundaries.
Yeah.
This show successfully navigated a complex path, moving from a heartfelt autobiographical project designed for emotional healing through complex high school and adult relationship drama.
But the moment it ventured into intense, explicit adult themes, culminating in that DPC house party episode, the lack in separation between the creator's internal expression and the public product instantly made it vulnerable.
Vulnerable to external challenges and ultimately total destruction.
The genius of the show lay in its sheer depth of personalized character creation, from Cody being based on an ex to the triplets sharing names with real children.
Jordan Miller's emotional life was his art, and his art was his life.
But that lack of separation meant that the instant that art, particularly the house party episode, crossed the line of appropriate exposure and led to legal action, The fallout was immediate, total, and irreversible.
It really highlights the double-edged sword of unfiltered creativity. The show's authenticity and its rawness drove its success, giving it a unique energy.
Of course.
But that same rawness, especially when combined with themes like complex gender identity, grief, and explicit sexuality, meant that when the content was exposed in a way that led to a boy suing the creator, the vulnerability of the entire project became tragically clear.
So, what does this all mean? We've witnessed the full meteoric arc of the Whiz Kids, a massive success story fueled by intense personal necessity, which was then cut abruptly short by the violent collision between deeply intimate, unfiltered art and real-world legal exposure.
It leaves us with a necessary question about creative responsibility.
It does.
Considering the sheer complexity of the adult themes involved, the discussions of surrogacy, infertility, trans identity, and unusual coping mechanisms, and knowing that this project originated as a form of personal therapy for Jordan Miller,
Right.
we have to ask, what responsibility does a creator truly hold when their deeply personal therapeutic work becomes public property, pushes fiercely against social norms, and ultimately results in a legal challenge that destroys the work itself?
That is the weight of creativity unleashed, and it's something worth mulling over long after the credits roll.